Good evening, Azeem. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview with me this evening. Obviously, we're heading towards Ramadan, and obviously that has a significant impact on our chambers and staff and clients. So I thought it'd be nice for us to have a catch up and maybe get some wise words as my former pupil master on what Ramadan. Yeah, on what Ramadan is and its significance, especially at this time of year.
Sure. Well, thank you for taking your time, Terry, in the evening. I know you have children and you have a very, very busy practice. I'm very grateful to you. I'm very grateful to everyone in Chambers for organising this. I think it's very important that there is a bridge between the communities where we can all easily understand each other and our differences, and more significantly, our similarities. So it's fantastic to be here. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I know you've got young children yourself, so the bedtime routine is always a mission.
Hopefully they will be in bed soon.
Bless you. So in terms of Ramadan, are you able to kind of just give me an overview of what Ramadan is?
Yes. Simply put, on a very basic level, Ramadan is refraining from eating and drinking between sunrise and sunset. That's the basic, as it were, essence of Ramadan. But that's very basic. It's more than that, because during those hours, you literally have to be on your best behavior, which means no swearing. There should be no swearing anyway, generally, but especially during Ramadan. So no swearing, no backbiting. You need to be kind. And the reason it's significant is because they are important qualities anyway, but especially during Ramadan, if you are swearing and if you are being mean to people or unkind to people, then that will affect your fasting day, and certainly from perspective of Muslims, it would mean that you would essentially get less reward for fasting on that day. But over and beyond that, I think beyond the issue of reward and benefit, Islam is all about being kind to each other anyway. So it's a very good reason during the month of Ramadan to exercise those skills of kindness with people. So that's what I understand Ramadan to be.
Okay, so it's more of an almost test of your resolve, I would imagine, especially during the time where you're hungry and thirsty. It's a real test to kind of keep your personal kind of emotions and things under control during that time. Would you say it's kind of a test, a personal test, and that's what the reward is at the end?
It's a test, yes. It's a test of self-discipline, but not necessarily in a selfish way. So it's not like a test of how many hours of work can I put in and how many hours of billing can I put in. It's an exercise of self-discipline, because when you are a self-discipline for selfless reasons as opposed to selfish reasons. So when you have as it were, had much any food over the last few hours, or especially, you can imagine water. Can you imagine not having liquid for over 10 hours? Then sometimes, if you're not careful, it's very easy to be, as it were, like temperamental with people. For example, if you're in a quick queue at Asda store and there's a long queue there, you can be impatient anyway in long queues, but especially if you're feeling thirsty, you're feeling tired, you're feeling hungry, and to top it up, certainly, especially in the early days of Ramadan, you can have a lot of headaches in the early evening onwards, because you're not eating and it's affecting you. you have to show patience, and it is an internal. It's certainly an internal matter as well. It's about feeling patient, but I think, in my view, more significantly, it's about showing patience to others, because in my view, your religion is really in a void and a vacuum unless and until it benefits anyone. And that actually syncs with my own view of my own practice as a barrister, because yes, of course, I'm the profession I'm in is one for career promotion to a certain extent, but for me, what's more significant is, what difference do I make? Do I help people ultimately? And my understanding of Ramadan is very similar, Teri, because what's the point essentially of doing something if you're not going to benefit anyone? If you're just thinking about, for example, racking up the points of reward and benefit as per your religion, but that's not actually benefiting society as a whole, then what's the point? I mean, if I fast, what difference will it make to your life, Teri, or anyone else's life? It has to manifest itself in your behavior with others, and that has to be the behavior of kindness, extra kindness, respect, generosity, and refraining from essentially bad behavior, which we are seeing more and more, especially I think in I think you might agree in the COVID environment. People are getting very, very impatient and can get very, very aggressive, for example, on the road. So no road rage, certainly I don't have road rage usually anyway. No, I'd never have road rage, by the way, but definitely not in Ramadan, because you'll be really going against the spirit of Ramadan.
Oh, because it's not a short time either, is it? It goes on for quite a long time. So how has it worked out in terms of when Ramadan starts and when does it finish?
So essentially it starts at the start of the day, so when the day commences, when when you can see the light, essentially, and that's in very basic terms, and it ends essentially when it's night, the start of the night. I haven't looked so far at the how long the fasting is going to be, but it will be possibly 12, 13, 14 hours. Like I say, I'm yet to check on how long the hours will be. But what makes it a bit difficult is every day the hours of fasting increase. They don't decrease, as I understand it. So they increase, the hours increase, and that makes it harder and harder and harder. And the first week, and that it may be different for other people, but I find the first week difficult because your body and mind is adjusting to it. And I also find the last week difficult because it gets very, very long by the last week. And plus, by the time of the last week, you've nearly had a month of really refraining from eating for hours, eating and drinking from hours on end. So I find the first week and the last week very, very difficult. I think I find the last week the most difficult because that's when I'm getting the most tired. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because you say it's over a month, and as barristers, we work quite long hours. We work weekends. Our day doesn't start on a sort of 9 to 5. So do you have to reschedule things? Do you take a different approach to your practice during that time?
I'm certainly. I mean, I'm sure other professionals who do fast may take different views on this, but I'm against actually taking time off as I'm working during Ramadan, and the reason for that I think is a very good one, because it has to hurt. If it's not hurting, it's not working. No pain, there's no gain. So my view is, if you, for example, take the entire month off, and I'm not saying I'm not as it were criticizing those that do decide to do that, because I know some people decide to do that. It's a matter for them. Religion can be, though it should always be very personal, because as I say, my view of religion is that it should benefit others. But the view I take is if I take, for example, 4 weeks off for Ramadan, then so I'm like, relaxing more. I'm not having to go physically to court. I'm not having to go on the video link. I'm not having to read papers. Then that will make my month of fasting easier. And I think for me, certainly the purpose of fasting is to make it, in a sense, more difficult. Because you are exercising self-discipline. So I keep on working, and I don't stop working. Obviously, if I fall ill, which luckily so far I haven't in any month of fasting, then you are allowed to take the day off. You're even allowed to break your fast if you're feeling really ill.
Yeah, that was one of my questions, and because obviously there's the intention to fast, and what really happens, especially with people getting ill at the moment, with COVID's doing the rounds, the numbers are on the up. So what happens in the balance between whether you have to break your fast or whether there's a discrepancy over your intention to fast?
So the fast literally starts. I mean, there's obviously specific timings for when the fast starts, but the fasting starts essentially when you make the intention to start fasting. So as per my understanding, so for example, if the fasting has to start by 5 o'clock, and if at, let's say, 4:58, you make an intention to fast, then your fast has started at 4:58, so you can't eat. So the main thing certainly in the religion of Islam are your intentions. So if you have started a fast and have made the intention to fast, and then you have this headache, which is, I mean, it can't just be a headache, like you can't just, it's not like, well, I've got a headache, I'm going to break the fast. But let's say you have a really bad headache and you feel unable to cope. Now that's a matter for your individual judgment. I don't think it's not a question you get authority from anyone. You have to decide in your mind whether you feel you can go on with the fasting. And I think that also reflects, which isn't really well known, about the religion of Islam. Islam isn't a judgmental religion. It's between you and your God as to whether you were justified in breaking your fast through ill health. So it's a question. It's between you and God. Obviously, you have to be genuine in the sense that it has to be genuine in ill health, which means you can't proceed with that fast. But there's no one there to kind of check or to authorize that. It's a matter between you and God. And if you feel unable to fast, you are under no obligation whatsoever to continue that fast. In fact, I think Islam would encourage you to stop fasting, especially if your life is endangered. So it's not inflexible at all.
Oh, great. So for example, like when we're doing sort of long trials and things like that, and you're in the middle of a fast, are there any sort of tips or strategies you use for coping? So obviously it's quite a stressful environment, and if you're already hungry and thirsty as well, I can imagine it being really tricky. So is there anything you do in particular to change your advocacy style or your delivery to manage that?
I actually work better in the month of fasting, and the reason for that is that I don't have the distraction of food, because I'm a food real. Probably Terry, you know that being people. I'm a real food lover. I'm the sort of person, whichever court I go to in the country, even at the cost sometimes of missing my train, which can delay me by 1 or 2 hours, I will make sure that I go to, like, that either that restaurant or that takeaway which serves the food I like. So I'm a real foodie, and it can be quite distracting for me, because it's like let's say I'm writing an opinion, or I'm preparing for a trial, and I'm just sitting there thinking, I wouldn't mind eating something now. I wouldn't mind getting a takeout, because I know all people love food, but I go out my way for food. So what happens with me is, because I'm not eating for those 12, 13, 14 hours, I don't have the distraction of food. So I don't have A, the distraction of food, and B, I don't squander the time, because I'm not one of these people that will get a quick sandwich and eat it whilst I'm working. When I eat, it's a real occasion, and anyone who knows me well will know that about me. So, you know, if I finish a trial off, we're going into that restaurant and we're going to have the full course, 3-course meal. So, so I save time. I literally save. I think I saved probably about 1.5 hours. And then the great thing, certainly as far as I'm concerned, is I know that I've got, let's say, from, for example, 5 to 8, 5 in the morning, 8 to the evening. I can't eat or drink. So that for me is like, great. What do I do? So I will work during that time. I actually run as well. So I will run as well during fasting. A lot of people don't do that, and I'll do it during the fasting because that falls in line with my my belief that it should hurt. You should feel tired. But the answer to your question is, firstly, I don't feel it affects my work at all. I mean, I've had I remember this is probably about 15 years ago, and some barrister said, well, I don't think you should be allowed to do a trial if you are fasting. But the reality is, if you haven't fasted, how can you say that? You know, if you've never had that experience, and you know, how can you say something like that without knowing? Personally, I think the main provision I make is because as an advocate, you obviously have to speak a lot, and the worst thing as an advocate is for your mouth to be dry as you're speaking, which can happen very easily when you haven't drunk any liquids for hours on end. So what I do is I have a lot of liquid before I start my fast. So that could be, you know, I don't drink alcohol. You can imagine me saying about this. So I don't drink alcohol. So that in my case would be, for example, I may have a Coke, a Coke Zero, and I may also have a glass of milk, and then I may have a glass of water, and then I may have a cup of tea, because I have to guard against my mouth becoming dry, because if I can't speak properly, then I am in difficulties and my client is in difficulties. My mouth has never gone dry ever before, because I make a lot of provision of taking a lot of liquid in. The other thing I'd say is the other provision I make is, so when I get up to open my fast, I will just have like a cereal. I won't have anything too heavy, because I think you have heavy food and you know, so you're hungry and you're tired, then I think it can make you very sleepy. So I just kind of tend to have like a Weetabix or some cornflakes, have lots of liquid, and then what I really like, I'll tell you what I really like about the month of fasting, I love about the month of fasting, is in terms of my practice as a barrister, is I know clearly which hours I can work. So let me give you an example. It's let's say 9 o'clock now, or 8 o'clock, and I've opened my fast. And obviously, you know, it takes some time, especially in my case, to eat, because I enjoy my food a lot. And then I'll have you know, a cup of tea, and then I'll say, well, I have to get up at 4 o'clock. What I'll often do instead is because if I'm, let's say, at home and I come from court about 6 or 7, I will sleep for 2 hours or so, and then I'll work straight from 10 to 4, because I'm well fed by then, and I've had liquid. And then at 4 o'clock, I will then obviously pray. It's called, I say 4 o'clock, this isn't the exact time, but I'm just giving it to make everything, you know, convenient in terms of people's understanding. And then I will possibly sleep for a few hours before I get up for court. Or alternatively, what I can do is, if I'm really tired, is after I have my food at 10 or 11 o'clock, I can sleep until 4 o'clock, then get up and start working until 8 or 9, whenever I need to. So actually, it doesn't affect my working. I actually work a lot more, and I'm a lot more productive during the month of fasting. I mean,
that's quite interesting, because I think the one thing as barristers is we don't really have any structure on our day, other than you've got to be at court at X amount of time, and it goes on as long as it goes on. But
I think
other benefits that you get to fasting? Obviously, it gives you a bit of structure to your day. You feel more focused. Is there anything else that you kind of reap rewards from a month of fasting?
Well, one of the, I think, greatest things about the month of Ramadan is you appreciate your food a lot more. So you might be just eating every day and not really appreciating. You really appreciate your food. You really appreciate your water that you drink. And certainly for me, it's a month of real inner reflection, because there are many people in this world who do not eat for major parts of the day, not through choice, but by necessity. So that really makes me really feel bad for those people. But like I said earlier, I don't believe that Islam should be in a vacuum or a void without actually benefiting people. So in the month of Ramadan, you have to be very charitable. You have to be very generous with your money. So Muslims give what we call zakat, which is compulsory upon all Muslims, which is like a percentage of all your income and your assets that you have to give every year. But in the month of fasting, I think you can be, and you should be more generous with that concept of zakat. And certainly, during that month, I feel like that I have to be more generous. And I think the one, I think, thing in common with all people is that charity is a very good thing, because I'm a firm believer that everything in life has a firm cause and effect. And I think when you are fasting, you are more understanding of that clear link of cause and effect. So the fact that you are eating properly, through the year, and others are not, there's a clear cause and effect going. And that really every year, fasting assists you in understanding that cause and effect in society. The other benefit should be, and it's often not, I'm afraid, is it should really kind of improve your diet for the month, because fasting, I think it's been medically proven has great, all sorts of benefits for people. But I think one problem, and I, if I'm really honest, is probably a bit of a problem in my family as well. But what some Muslims tend to do is because they're hungry, so when it comes to breaking their fast, they just go for it, as you can imagine. Fried food, fried samosas, chips, steak, you name it. But I think the purpose actually is not that. The purpose is, and I've got better at that over the years, is actually, so even when you open your fast, it is to eat and not feel entirely full, because as we know, I mean, if you go on the NHS website for just in terms of how much a person should be eating, what they say, as per the information on the NHS website, is it takes half an hour for your brain to digest that you're full. So in Islam anyway, it's something that I don't think it's like a compulsory thing for you to stop eating at a certain point, but I think it's certainly very encouraged that you stop eating when you feel you're 3/4 full. So when you're 3/4 full, and that actually is in accordance with the NHS advice, that it takes half an hour for your brain to tell you that you're full. So the point I'm making is that I think in Ramadan you shouldn't overload yourself with food, and certainly I've done that in the past, but I'm getting far better at that over the years, whereby I'm not completely bloating myself with food in the evening.
Yeah, I can imagine. I don't know how you do it. It sounds torturous. So And I do have to admire the dedication to that. It really is incredible. So towards the end of Ramadan, you have an Eid celebration. Are you able to kind of give me a bit more info and information about what an Eid celebration is and why you have it?
Well, the Eid celebration is called the Eid al-Fitr, which is so spell EIDULFITR. It's essentially celebrating the end of the month of fasting. So that's a time when in Muslim households there'll be quite a big feast. Guests will meet each other. So that's why it's very difficult during the COVID lockdown. And guests will meet each other. And in my family, I'm not sure if it's the same in other families, we tend to give money to each other. But in my case, I get no money at this stage of my life, and I only give. And the reason for that is because certainly within my family is you pay money to those who are younger than you. And if you're male, you pay to the female doesn't pay you. So in my case, I live with my lovely mom, I live with my wife and my children, and then I have two sisters. So in my case, it's a question of just giving. It's not a question of my great father, he's unfortunately passed away some time ago. So I have to give everyone. I don't get money from anyone, which kind of, it's not great, but I'm just glad that I'm able to do that, really, in all the circumstances. But in our family, we just give money so they can, and that's not a tenner. Believe me, that's not a tenner. It's a lot of money, and it's demanded of me within the household as well. Very nicely, of course. Yeah.
It sounds nice. I do feel for you, but that's where all your money goes, I guess, that you've saved on lunches and coffees over the past month.
Yeah. I'm a lot poorer on the day of Eid, put it that way. A lot poorer.
It sounds like you're spiritually more beneficial, though. So I guess the quid pro quo is there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is there any other information you'd like us to be aware of to support people and provide support and encouragement during Ramadan? Is there anything we can do for our clients that we really need to kind of think about during this time as we enter into Ramadan?
Yeah, well, you see, certainly in terms of clients, what one has to take account of is like anything in life. The fasting will have different effects on different people. Some people will feel it more than others, and when you are fasting, there can be, as I understand it from people I speak to, there can be times when you are finding hard to concentrate. I don't have that problem, I have to say, but I've certainly heard enough people and read enough about people saying that they do have problems in concentration. So what I would say is if for example, you have a Muslim client who probably will be fasting, though it's not necessary. Some people don't fast. If you've got a trial, for example, before the judge, I would speak to the client before the trial and saying, so are you fasting today? I don't think any Muslim would ever get offended by that question. And then if the answer is yes, he or she is fasting, then ask them, so how are you feeling? And if they're feeling bad, or they're feeling thirsty or tired, I think it's your duty as professional counsel to tell the judge that. And I think it's the judge's duty to actually take that very, very seriously. Because if you haven't been in the position of someone who's fasting, then you're not going to know what effect that's going to have on that individual. So I think that's very important. I find most people, however, are very kind and are very, very considerate to people who are fasting. I think just take account of the fact that the person who is fasting will be in a different place to you, because they haven't ate their food and they haven't you know, drunk any water, any liquids, unlike you, and just to be more considerate. I mean, you know, Muslims are not like one like community in which all the people are the same or have the same feelings. They're all different. I mean, if you see me in Ramadan, you wouldn't have to pick up that I'm fasting. I'm very normal during fasting. But some people like to be quiet, a lot more quiet, which is understandable. And some people are affected more as well. So just be really considerate. I mean, I think you just, you know, Muslims are not expecting other people to, like, as it were, you know, go completely over the top in terms of, you know, recognizing the fact that they are fasting, but all they want is a bit of consideration. And I don't think, to be honest, I don't think, apart from just being considerate, especially if you're in a court environment, for the judge to be considerate, which is very, very important. The cultural understanding is really important. But apart from that, I think it's just the element of recognition that that person is fasting. That's all it is. And you don't even need to say it, you know, I recognize you're fasting. Just recognizing that they are fasting, being considerate of that, I think is the most important thing.
Fantastic. Well, it's certainly given me a better understanding of things ahead, especially when things are getting busy and we've got lots of clients coming back and forth. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with me this evening about this. And I guess all I've got left to say is Ramadan Mubarak. Yeah, and Ramadan Mubarak to you, and Ramadan Mubarak to everyone who will see this video. And what I would say is, you know, the reality is that Ramadan is an occasion for people really to learn about a culture which is different in some regards. So let's all join in, let's be one community, and let's frankly have fun and be happy people. Great. Thank you. Thank you.